Yeah, I've got it live on the background as well.
Dude, we're live, man. Shit.
Lekker, man.
I'm gonna actually check because we're doing this through a separate app, and I'm gonna see if it'll pop up on my YouTube. But so yes,
Yep.
this is gonna be a new thing we're gonna do here. We're gonna do our weekly chats because we were doing them as a podcast, but it wasn't nearly as fun, I guess. But
Look, I think at the end of the day, you don't get the engagement from the public in real time, number one. And then secondly, any engagement whatsoever in the first place, because where can people contact us on the podcast? That's the problem. So,
no, that was me. I had our live on my computer. I didn't have the volume turned down, so you were hearing the feedback from that. So,
oh, snap. All right.
but yeah, I mean, it's so. With that being said, we've got a bit to unpack here after the weekend. I mean, dude, I had to look it up, man. Okay, 1949.
1949, mate. That was when last we had that 4-win streak. Is that correct?
They did a tour to South Africa in 1949, and it was so bad that I had to ask somebody, what is Griqualand West?
Griqualand, man. That's like in the Cape region, isn't it?
It was basically the northwestern, yeah, it was like that with part of the Orange Free State, and I knew what North Transvaal was because that's where my dad is from. When Petersburg was North Transvaal, the Transvaal is where you live, is Gauteng today, and those were the names. Oh, and they played Rhodesia. They played Rhodesia twice on that tour, and it was like, anybody who wants to know what Rhodesia is, that is Zimbabwe now. That's how long ago it was. I mean, black and white photos, yes, and
100%.
We beat the All Blacks this weekend, 18-12. Your thoughts on the game throughout?
Man, there was actually quite a lot of stuff that came out of it for me. First things first, I guess we're very proud of our boys and the way that the game is playing. And I mean, you and I, we speak about this game all the time, I guess, if one wants to call it that. So, there was a couple of things that stand out for me, especially from the pundits after the game. There was a lot of people discussing, that number one, the game plan is not working for them, that we're playing at the moment, that we should go back to our set piece only type of thing. And, when opportunity arises, obviously give it to the wings. But, I find that the current game style is actually ever evolving. And I think it is actually going to be the future of South African rugby. It's a lot more exciting rugby, number one. And then, of course, secondly, the other thing for me, which is more important, it actually continues to win games. All right. So, because people generally don't know where we're going with our game style for that specific game. I actually kind of enjoy that type of game style. So, I mean, we checked the last time against Ireland when we went back to set piece driven only. What happened? We actually lost the game. Right. So on the first game, we kept them guessing.
Exactly.
Second game, we went back to the old school style of play and they managed to beat us. So I'm actually excited about this. But I mean, back to the game, you obviously asked me that question. So there was obviously a couple of average performers and a couple of good performers, right? And then there was a couple of just downright bad performers on the game. And that goes both ways, right? That goes for New Zealand and South Africa. I mean, if we want to single out some players from New Zealand, guys like Taylor played a massive game.
Cody Taylor was amazing. Cody Taylor 100%. Was amazing.
Yeah. Wally Satiti, man, that guy, for a 22-year-old,
dude, he's good. He's
he to me is what we should have gotten out of who's that number 8 from Province. We should have gotten that.
Evan Roos.
Evan Roos, yes. We should have gotten that out of him. You know what I mean? That was what was expected on an international level. But I mean, it was not to be at the moment. So, but so they had some standout performers, and then they had some complete trashy performers like your Severis, TJ Perenara once again mouthing off at the ref, causing almost another penalty towards New Zealand. And in fact, guys like your Scott Barrett, I mean, that guy to me is not a captain. I don't think he is the future of New Zealand rugby, unfortunately. And but anyways, that being said, they had a couple of other guys that was also kind of average. I mean, the other Barrett brother, like in the fullback when he was on, really didn't do much either. Because I mean, they put him on the bench to come and close the game out, right? And he really had no impact on the game. So, but why everybody's here is to hear about the Springboks, I guess. And
I've got to say, I was a bit apprehensive with Handré Pollard getting the start, but once the game kicked off, I got it immediately. Handré Pollard is not an attacking. We needed somebody that could shore up the defensive line in the back, and Handré is the general at that. And I saw that immediately, why they started Handré Pollard, because they knew, like in the second game against Argentina, the All Blacks they always bounce back in the second game and they come out firing. And we had it set up. We had Peter Steph-Toy where he needed to be in the number 7 jersey. We had everybody where they needed to be on the pitch to put up with an onslaught like they did. And, fortunately for us, the only thing that New Zealand was able to manage out of it was 9 points.
Yeah.
Their starting 15 was 9 points in the first half. We go into half at 9-3 is the score. Some really good defense on both sides of the ball. We got to see multiple phases deep for both teams. Unfortunately, nobody was able to deliver in that first half. And it just let you know what kind of coach we have in Rassie Erasmus, that he can see these things before they even happen. And I knew when we went in at half and it was 9-3 that we were going to win the game, because I knew their bench was not going to be able to step up. And as a matter of fact, Scott Robertson didn't even use his whole bench. He kept 3 guys on the bench.
100%. But that just goes back down to the belief, right? System that's been instilled upon this specific Springbok team, right? Generally, when you check on a global scale, you almost put on the bench your second stringers, right? Guys that's just there to come in and try and close the game out for what the starting lineup has already achieved, type thing, right? When the legs are tired and just to get it home. Where Rassie actually really revolutionized the way that we really look at that bench, right? The bench is almost starters on steroids. You look at guys like your Malcolm Marx, who really makes a difference when he actually goes out on the field. Man, that guy really plays a massive game, like closing out any game. And unfortunately, we do have some of these players that is world class. Like in any other team, they would just start, okay? They wouldn't be on a bench. But they make such a massive impact coming off that bench. Guys like your Kwagga Smith, okay? That guy is massive.
He's a bench player. That's all he needs to be. He needs to come off. And like, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Rassie has we've given the bench, and I used to say it, the run-ons. That's what the All Blacks call their replacement players. They call them the run-ons or the replacement players. For us, Rassie gave our bench an identity and said, you're the bomb squad. And hate it or love it, it's like there's the famous clip with Arhi Sneman saying, you make the bomb squad, and it's too bad, maybe, or he's like, you're on maybe the starters telling the starters, too bad, maybe next week you'll be on the bomb squad. And it's like, what team has that mentality where the guys on the bench are, and you'll see it when they're warming up, especially at that 45th minute.
Yeah.
They're asking Dwayne or whoever has the walkie-talkie, like, hey, when are we going in? When are we going? When are we going in? It's not, I want to go. And it's like, it's almost like they want to go in because they know, oh man, I want to clean up trash. I'm on trash duty. Let me go out here and do my thing. And like, honestly, both the wins back to back, it wasn't our starting 15 that won the games. It was our bench.
Yeah.
And we can say that's kind of the truth. I mean, in the World Cup final, our bench came on and closed the door. And I think it says a lot about the Springbok culture, but I think we also have to kind of look at the All Blacks. Like, they're just not there anymore. They're not there anymore. And they're admitting
100%.
it finally. You finally seeing John Kerwin, Jeff Wilson. They're admitting it. Like, yeah, we're not there. We're not there. And
the problem is that their public has a certain perspective about New Zealand rugby, of course, right? So, of course, there's a lot of people that held on to yesteryear's opinions or yesteryear's achievements, rather. And the problem with that is that you're actually not taking a real stern look at your current standings, okay? And there's a lot of factors obviously that is like involved in that, like, for instance, what we discussed before, South Africa pulling out of, for instance, the
Super Rugby,
Super Rugby competition, 100%. That obviously had an impact, sure. In fact, I think the bigger problem is that New Zealand rugby players aren't being exposed as South African players are to top caliber competition anymore, because let's be quite frank, Australian rugby is really falling apart at the moment. And that's from the inside out and outside in. You look at provincial, you look at, your international teams. It's just a sad state of affairs happening in Australia at the moment. So really the competition is New Zealand against other New Zealanders, and really what type of like big game temperament does it build, or intellect in like these type of games? Because at the end of the day, like, New Zealand rugby is pretty much known for their way of playing rugby, right? They're flashy, they're this, they're that, but they don't have all like rounded teams, like teams that is like set piece driven, teams that are like up front the whole time. Like they don't always have these type of teams. And the problem is you don't get accustomed to that type of style of play. And that's why you have a look at your URC teams. Those teams are directly translating to their international teams as actually they're doing a lot better now in terms of from a European perspective.
I feel like the URC, we get more diversity in competition. Like we get to play the top Irish guys, the top Scottish guys, the top Italian guys. And I personally am of the belief that, like, I think closing off Super Rugby, it would have worked a decade ago, 12 years ago, when you had the Crusaders, they had all those guys. It would have worked then. It doesn't work now. And I worry about it a bit, because there's going to be the call. And I think for a lot of Kiwi fans, they think that their overseas based players are going to be the difference maker. I'm sorry. One player doesn't make. Richie Mo'unga is better than Damian McKenzie. No question. Brody Retallick, this would be his 4th World Cup cycle. He's not what you think. He's not going to save your lock problem. You're not going to get Shannon Frizzell would be great. These guys would be great, but it's not going to fix it. And I worry that when that happens, they're not going to stay there. They're going to go to Japan or Europe. Because look, we already know that Jordy Barrett is going to Leinster this year. The rumor is that Damian McKenzie is going to France. Like, we know this is happening. We know this is happening. And it's like, for us, Sia went to France for a year. Say what you will about it. I've gotten a lot of blowback saying it was a waste, yada, yada, yada. He was horrible, whatever. We didn't hate Sia for that. It was like, Bubba, go get your money. Go get paid. 100%. Like Malcolm Marks does not play in South Africa. He plays in Japan. Go get your 100%. Money. Go get your money. Kwaka, Jesse Creel, Chesley Colby, Faf de Klerk, everybody, they play there. And I'm not mad. Like, go get your paycheck. Like, you're a professional 100%. Athlete. Go get it. But I feel like we get them and they're better and it's whatever. And it's like, I think that it's what New Zealand's going to have to do. They don't have any choice. They're not going to be able to build it. And I think when that happens, that's going to be the death blow. That's going to be the death blow to Super Rugby, which to me, honestly, at its peak was the greatest club competition on the planet. Bar none. Especially when the Bulls were doing well, Hurricanes, Blues, everybody was doing well. But it kind of goes back to that. Now, we did have another game this weekend. I caught the highlights. It was 20-3 halftime. Wallabies all over Argentina, and then they scored one more time, and Argentina scored 64 unanswered points.
Yeah.
What did we say? Australian rugby is rotten to its core, and that is further proof of it right there. Like,
look, man. I mean, that Argentinian team, like, I don't know what it is. Wait, let's just take a step back, right? Did you only watch the highlights, not pieces of the actual game?
Just bits and pieces. But what did I miss? What did I miss?
So, like, this is just my opinion, right? So, I mean, Argentinian guys, we love you guys. I saw a comment from a guy today on another podcast where the guy's like so respectful of South African rugby, thanking South African rugby, because without us, there wouldn't be them in the whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, but for me, there's just one thing. It just put it into perspective for me because of the way we are, right? As South Africans, we like when you come to South Africa and you play an international game against South Africa, right? Bro, okay, our people will scream your head off, okay? Like it is mull. Like people are going mull. Brandies are flowing. Like everybody's having a good time. Like everybody's overreacting at calls that the ref makes. It doesn't matter, right? We passionate about our rugby, okay? And I include myself into that as well because I scream at the television when I'm like sitting even at home. I scream at the television like I'm a fucking ref or something, right? So, but I mean, that being said, okay, when I watched this Argentina game, okay, it was silence, mate. It was fucking silence, okay? And like whenever like Argentina did something, there was just like a bunch of clapping hands, okay? And then silence. And I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, these people are so respectful of the game, man. Like respect. Like,
so
it was weird.
Something you might not know about Argentina, which I've learned from having South American colleagues at work. I have a Brazilian colleague and I have a young lady that is from Paraguay. Yeah. Nobody likes Argentina in South Africa or in South America. Like they are looked at as like the snobbish people, like they think they're European. And when you watch their rugby, they're very European about it. And it's like, look, I respect the Argentines. I respect that team. That, to me, and as a matter of fact, for Six Nations fans that try to compare them to Italy, there's no comparison because Argentina has made now 2 semifinals in a World Cup. And if we don't win the rugby championship, guess who wins it? Argentina wins. Like, that's not Italy. Okay, Italy gets a win here and there.
Yeah.
Argentina is a competitive team now. Like, I honestly think we're within a shot of them beating the Wallabies both games, beating they're right on our heels. They are right on our heels as a team. And they've done the same thing. They don't have a big team in their country. So all their boys are playing in Europe.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference. You can see the results because they're bringing those European style tactics to the Southern Hemisphere game, as are the Springboks. We're playing like a more well-rounded team. We don't just play the set piece and forward dominance. We go out wide. We have Tony Brown, obviously he's a Kiwi, but like we had Felix Jones last run, Irish guy. Like we're well-rounding our tactics as a team.
Yeah.
And it's what Argentina is doing as well. They're well-rounded as a team. I'm not taking this game lightly that we're playing the first test in Argentina. It's going to be a fun game regardless. I think we win, but
Look, my simple opinion is the only problem with Argentina is a consistency, right? They've got a bit of a consistency problem. Excuse me. So they do have a bit of a consistency issue. One game up, one game down, one game up, one game down. It sounds about a little bit familiar of like something that we used to do like a couple of years ago, right?
Well, the All Blacks, look at the All Blacks. That's what the All Blacks have become. One game up, one game down. Yeah.
So consistency for me there is maybe one of the issues for them. And to be honest, I don't think they've got what it takes to topple the Springboks.
Not yet.
Um,
Not yet. Not yet.
to be honest, like for the foreseeable future, I do not like with Rassi and what they're trying to achieve. I think, look, it's going to sound like it's arrogant or bold or whatever the case might be, but you know, I don't think we would drop a game to them in the foreseeable future unless we're experimenting a little bit more than we should be. Trying maybe some combinations that's not really been tested before, or
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
blooding even some players that's not really had the experience yet. So, but when it comes to test match rugby and like playing your A-listers, I guess, in a team, I do not think they would edge us at the moment. That's just my opinion based on, of course, the trend that the Springboks are going. They're going with a lot of confidence into that game. There's a lot of young players, even with a lot of confidence as well, because they're part of this winning culture, right? And you know that sort of belief that you start getting, you know, it breeds one of two things. One, it could breed complacency, all right, or drive. Okay, so and I tend to think that Rassi currently is instilling that drive in the players, right? Because he's keeping everybody on their toes. Like every position has two, three people that can fill that gap, right? So if you're not doing your job on the day, there's somebody that's going to be coming across and taking it over.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that like internal healthy competition going on, and that builds a lot of drive, and especially when there is that competition internally, but secondly, there is that winning culture within that team as well. Like the spirits are high, like people are confident, and there's a lot of things that can be said for confidence on the field, right? I mean, if you have a look at, for instance, New Zealand, right? When Ardie Surveyor was, like captaining the team, the moment he starts getting flustered, then they start like falling apart, really, right?
He doesn't
Because
bring, yeah, like
he doesn't have that
he's
confidence in
he
himself,
doesn't have
right?
that leadership ability that like we
Yeah,
hope that he would have. And like we see it. We saw it in the World Cup when Sam
yeah,
Cane went out, he became the captain, and it was just you could tell by that point he was broken. And
yeah, 100%.
we
But now they're sitting with a captain that I don't think is a captain either.
Scott Barrett is not a good, yeah. No.
Scott Barrett, number one, okay, is a fucking card magnet. Okay. So the thing is, half the time you're going to be sitting with a guy that's not even on the field being your
Yeah.
captain. Okay. Because that's what he does. We've discussed this before, right?
Yeah.
As
I'm
a
surprised he
lock,
didn't get I'm surprised he didn't get any this last two games. I'm
100%.
really surprised.
I was also. So, I mean, because we know at lock, he milks cards like all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay. If you just go check his history, all right, at lock, he's just been poor. Okay. Where, especially his discipline and stuff like that, right? But when it comes to him playing on, let's say, a flank position, he's more decent. Okay. He
Yeah.
plays a great game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, look, at the end of the day, I don't think he's the captain that New Zealand needs. Okay. They need somebody that's gonna take the reins and really drive that team to get their tails up, get their chest pumped up, their heads up, and this is just like when you start losing games, it's very hard to pick yourself up every time, because if you look at the history of New Zealand rugby, they used to being on top for so long, all right. And we've discussed this, right?
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for these guys, okay, well, even their public, to understand that they're in a building phase, okay, because the expectancy on them is so high to just win every game, okay, and that's just not the case anymore. I'm not saying they're not a good team. They're still a top 5 team, okay, in the world, but they're no longer this unassailable target that nobody can beat. Okay. You can break them down and you can beat them. Like Argentina's shown it, Ireland's shown it, South Africa has now shown it, England almost showed it in those two games when it was there. Like a lot of people were like, oh, that was like that second performance was so great against England, blah, 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 blah. Bro, did you even watch that fucking game? Okay. Like
Yeah.
England was in both those games for
Both
me.
those games.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like those score lines wasn't telling me the story of how England played. So I don't know if New Zealand played that poorly or if England played that well. But at the end of the day, that was like almost where they lost. Okay, and look, the New Zealand public needs to take a hard look. I mean, South Africa was there. Okay, a lot of people say that as South Africans we're so proud and we are, such arrogant winners, and what, right? There's a lot of stories going around, but at the end of the day, we are even harder on our teams, okay, when they don't do well,
yeah,
okay?
no, yeah, no, it's no question. When our guys play like crap,
100%.
We're savage. We're savage on social media. We are savage. I do have to say this. One of the things that kept coming up in the comment section was, "Oh, this is a young All Blacks team." Okay,
yeah,
and I get it. Wallace Satiti is 22 years old. Tamaiti Williams is 24 years old. Okay, this is Damian McKenzie's third World Cup cycle.
Yeah,
this is Beauden Barrett's fourth World Cup cycle. This is Jordy Barrett's third World Cup cycle. Scott Barrett's third World Cup cycle. Just because you have a 22 and a 24-year-old on your team is not a young team, okay? Yeah. We have Kanan Moody, who's 19 still. We have Sasha, who's 22.
Yeah. That's supposed to be generaling the team on the field.
They're not exactly spring chickens out there, though. Like they've walked into their jobs and owned them very, very well. Sasha Feinberg is 22 years old. I think. Let me check. Let me double check. I want to say he's 22. Yeah. His birthday's in February. He won't be 23 until next year. Yeah. He walked into that job and has owned it from the second he stepped on the field. And you could say, and are we an older team? Yes, we are. Okay. Look, Franz Malherbe will not make it to the next World Cup. He's 34 years old. We've already kind of moved Trevor Nakane out. Billy LaRue, he'll get his 100 and that'll be done. He's not making.
Rassi already retired him for him,
Yeah. But I mean, we're not exactly spring chickens either. I mean, this is Jesse Krill's fourth World Cup run. This will be Valemza's third World Cup. You know what I mean? It's like we've got some older guys, but we don't say we're a young team by any means. We're not a young team. You kind of talked about the culture that had been created with this team. One thing I got to bring up, the number 13 jersey, the number 13. For years, it was Lukan Yoam. At one point, he was the best center on the planet. He gets injured. He's kind of come back here and there. And I have liked him in the limited time we've seen him come back. He still has it in him. But at the end of the game, you've got Jesse Krill in 13. You've got Lukan Yoam in 23. And they're hugging each other. This is the guy that put you out of your jersey, your starting spot. And you're hugging each other. Or Andre Pollard, Sasha Feinberg. You expect, hey, there's going to be a battle there. There's no egos. We don't have any egos on our team. We don't have guys that are like, oh, that's mine. Nobody does that. And it's like Malcolm Marks doesn't think it's a slight that he comes off the bench. He doesn't look at it like, oh, that means we don't have – we have characters. Sia Khaleesi is a character. I wouldn't say he's exactly egotistical. I did notice as they were going out of the tunnels. Sia's got the little kid next to him. Sia likes to sing in the tunnel. I think it's something about the acoustics. I think he just likes to sing in the tunnel because the acoustics are so good. It's usually him, Bongi, Ox. They're singing at the front, and it's cool. It's a good vibe. Did you see Sia absolutely sprint once he left that tunnel? He sprinted out to the field, meaning he was ready to go. He's ready to go now. There's no, and it's just the culture that's been created with this team that we feel like I would trust these guys with my kid. That's the kind of mentality that we now have as a Springbok squad. Is not only now we do have to bring up, of course, it's already been in my comment section. Did you see who got banned yesterday, late last night, early this morning?
Yeah.
And that's
Boone Kosi, eh?
Yeah, like he's done. And like, look, I didn't think he was coming back anyways. Like, it's
Yeah,
just,
no, I didn't expect him back.
But it's like, yeah, he got caught, just like Elton Yankees has. And it's like, look, those guys, it sucks. I know why they do it because I did it when I was an athlete. Like, it sucks. You don't make the club in the tub. You don't make the team if you're hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those guys are no way reflective of Springboks, in my opinion. They're not.
Yeah.
They're former Springboks, but
yeah,
it sucks for him. It's unfortunate, but look, these are the rules of the game. You have to agree to them when you sign up to play said game, and here we are. He is banned. That's done for him.
Look, man, for me, it's like you were speaking of these players earlier. And to be quite frank, what is a professional? Okay. A professional is a person that gets paid to do a specific thing, right? Regardless if you've been there for 1 day or 6 years. Okay. If you get paid to do that specific thing, you're considered professional in that field. Okay. Now, in this case, it's on the field. Okay. So for me, when a Springbok walks out and he wears that green and gold, you better be willing to bleed green and gold. Okay. And I do believe firmly, okay, that Rassie obviously sees a lot of these people and what they're willing to give for that jersey, because that's one of the measurements, right, for these guys when they're considered for the team, is just how much are you willing to do for that jersey, right? How much are you willing to put your body on the line? I mean, you think of some people like Cheslin Colby that just like fucking out and out, smallest guy on the field, and he always takes on much bigger opponents than himself, right? And quite often, majority of the time, he comes off first in that. Like a perfect example is that first game against New Zealand where he took on Scott Barrett and he sat him fucking down, right? So that's a big slab of meat that he ran into. And at the end of the day, that just goes to show
he's been doing that for years. He's been doing that for years.
So these guys are just they will do anything, for that jersey. And for me, that is a sentiment that I think is kind of lacking, in like teams like New Zealand at the moment, teams like the Wallabies at the moment. So there's some people there that's like they're not willing to go that full 80 minutes or that extra mile. We often speak of the way we play, and I always tell you, do you know what I want to see? I want to see that second game against Australia in Australia 2 years ago. Okay, when Damien de Allende got that first try, and he was fucking pissed. Okay, you could see him, right? He slammed that ball down and he like threw a FU to the crowd, basically, right? And that was after we got yellow carded in that first game for Fuff's clap on like Nick White or whatever that little.
Wait. I don't know that name. Are you talking about the shit emoji? Is that?
Yeah. That's shit emoji. Yeah. That's the one. That's what I said, right? That's what I said. So when we slapped his jaw off or whatever, and and he's such an actor, that motherfucker. But anyways, so we came back in that second game and we were angry, right? We were like combative, we were upfront, like giving it to that team, right? And that is the fire. That is the fire I want to see. It's the same game where a lot of the videos online you see where my pimps went up against Korobetse. The one where Etzebeth and Alalatawa was grabbing each other 100%. So I mean, that's the type of fire you want to see in a team, right? In every game. I'm not saying kill that guy and then afterwards go home. Like, you still have to face the guy afterwards, right? And have a beer together, whatever. Okay?
We saw the video.
But for that 80 minutes, right? That guy is between you and utter victory, right? You and eternal glory. You and the public's passion and drive put through you on that field, right? So, for me, rugby is so much more than, a lot of people understand. It's on a global scale. I can only speak for South Africans, and I mean, you know the passion that I speak of,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of us got such shit daily like grinds that we have to go to. Well, not myself. I mean, I enjoy what I do, but I mean, majority. There's a lot of people out there like that's struggling to make ends meet. There's a lot of people that's like the pure joy they get is on the weekend when they manage to watch those Boks running out on that field.
Get a dub for everyone. Yeah,
100%. And that just makes their lives just a little bit like more worthwhile for a little bit longer, like makes them willing to face the next week type thing. And, rugby inspires these people, man. Like it inspires these youngsters. It inspires so many people around us. And I still find there's a lot of people that I know that like youngsters specifically, right? They like into anime and they don't watch rugby and they don't watch this and they don't watch that. And I'm like, what the hell is going on with this
the youth? What's wrong with the youth?
Like there's so much of lessons that you can learn, so much of things that you can learn from these inspirational, motivational leaders in sport. I mean, that's something those guys were driven all their lives to achieve this great milestone of putting on that green and gold, and they're managing to make it such a success by any means necessary, right? Sure, by great coaching, by passion, by drive, by hard work. There's so many things that you can say that goes involved, by clever thinking, rugby intellect, like just there's a lot of things. Like I mean, there's for instance, Sasha this weekend, right? Sasha for me is such a great and exciting player, but he made such poor decisions like twice.
Yeah. He had a bad game. He had a bad game
perspective, right?
Yeah, he had a bad game.
A lot of people just forgive him that, okay, because he's so exciting around the field.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was one. It seemed like he was going to kick it, and then like it's like pouncing, like I'm going to kick it. I'm going to kick it. I'm going to do a cross kick. Like you let the whole defensive team know by now you're kicking that ball, there, right?
Yeah.
And that's where it was slapped down, right, by New Zealand. Okay, so I mean, that was some poor calls, but these guys are allowed to make these mistakes, right? Because they're learning. Okay, and unfortunately, for New Zealand, it didn't cost us as much as they would have liked. Okay, for us, it didn't really cost us much. Okay, because I mean, in that last 20 minutes, we didn't succeed. Like we didn't actually give away any points. Okay?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting stat from the weekend was 37 missed tackles by the Springboks. And how many tries did New Zealand have? Absolutely zero. And that just tells you right there that, like, I know part of that is the rush defense that we've employed and we've been good at for so long. I take this away as not just how good we are, but the state of New Zealand rugby as it sits. I had to go back and do the numbers here.
Yeah.
I have made a prediction. I've upset some people that I don't think Scott Robertson's still around in 4 years. I just don't see it. But I had to go back and look at Fozzie's record at this point, at the exact same point. Okay. They won the rugby championship. Yeah. They won it. The All Blacks did. The very first year Fozzie was in it. Now, unfortunately, we had COVID. We didn't play for a year. We did remember the green and gold game? Was that at Joburg or was that at Pretoria?
I can't recall, bro.
But you remember, it was a green and gold. Yeah. It was our only thing we could do because we weren't participating. They went back to the Tri-Nations. It was all in Australia. And the record that Razor is currently sitting with, this is where they were 2 years ago when they dropped to 5th. He's got that right now.
Yeah.
It's like, are they going to fire him? And it's the realization that, like, they let Fozzie get away with that.
Yeah.
Are they going to let him? And I think they will, because they don't want to admit that. I don't think Super Rugby translates into international coaching. Look, It's a love-hate relationship. I like Heineke Meyer more for what he did here for rugby in America, but Heineke Meyer was not a good international coach. He was a great Super Rugby coach.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to admit that at some point.
Not a lot of people liked him over here, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I know he's hated. Yes. I know he's hated. I know when they found out his contract was up, they were like, "You can keep him. We don't want him back here. Don't let him come back. You know, whatever." And like I said, I don't think Super Rugby coaches necessarily translate, because it's not like Steve Hansen coached in Super Rugby or Graham Henry, or I mean, for that sake, Rassie Erasmus. Like he didn't coach.
Like coach.
Who did he coach? Did he coach?
Like Free State, if I'm not mistaken. He was involved with Free State. I think he was actually involved for a short time at Province as well. No, he was a provincial coach.
I don't remember. I don't. Did he coach in Super Rugby?
I don't know if it was in Super Rugby, but it was provincial rugby.
Hold on, let me look at what we got here. We've got Free State. So he did. Yeah, he coached the Cheetahs. He coached the Stormers.
Yeah.
So he did coach in Super Rugby, but not like not like for 10 years like Scott Robertson did.
Yeah.
His biggest experience was. He was at Munster a year. He was at the Stormers for 2. He was at Western Province for 3. He was at Cheetahs for 3. But I don't necessarily consider Rassie Erasmus a Super Rugby coach either. Not like Scott Robertson was a Super Rugby coach. That's exactly what they say he had no international coaching experience. That is a lie. That is a lie. Do you know who Scott Robertson has coached another nation? Do you know what nation Scott Robertson coached?
No, not a clue.
You would never guess it in a million years. They're not known for rugby. They are known for soccer.
Okay.
They've won multiple soccer World Cups.
I don't watch soccer, so I can't tell you.
Brazil. He coached Brazil for 3 years. He was Brazil's, for 3 years, I believe. Okay. I don't watch soccer either, obviously. I know it's obviously a much more popular sport in South Africa. Yeah, he coached Brazil for 2012 to 2013. So he coached them for a year, probably all remotely, I imagine. But yeah, he coached the Crusaders for 6 years. He was with Canterbury for basically 10 years. And like, that's what he was. And I think a lot of people don't want to admit that.
But he was a player as well, eh?
Yeah, he had I think he had like 30 caps. Hold on. Let me see. How many caps did he had? 23 caps for New Zealand.
Yeah.
He was just like Rassie. He was a flanker number 8. Although I think what Rassie's 52, 50.
Yeah.
Because Scott Robertson is 50. We see how old Rassie is.
They're not far apart. I saw that video.
So they played at the same time. They played at the same time with each other.
Yeah.
So but for some reason I feel like Scott's a little bit better shape than Rassie.
Yeah. And I mean, Rassie's got some medical issues though. So
Rassie's got that South African diet. Like they're in a lot of veggies, man. It's a lot of meat, unfortunately. But like it's. I wanted that. I wanted Scott Robertson to be that for the All Blacks. What Rassie has been for us, and I just don't see it yet. Like I don't. Oh man! Like, have you watched any of his post-game interviews?
Who Razor?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Oh man, you learn a lot. You're learning a lot out here today. I learned a lot out here today, and it's like, damn, I guess you're having to learn. Like
for me, for me, he used to be like very happy, like he's one of those people that like when success is going his way, then he's like very happy to.
He's cool. He's cool.
But when things aren't going his way, he becomes a little bit chirpy with like the journalists and like when they ask him a bit harder questions. That's what I've noticed, anyways. And the public is starting to ask harder questions. Okay, like in journalists and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, that like even though they forgiving him a lot of these losses and all of these issues that he's facing, for instance, not being able to pick your overseas-based players, all of those issues eventually you're going to run out of excuses, and then all you're going to be left with is the result. And currently the result's not great. Okay. So yes, he might have the same type of record as Fozzie, but let's be quite frank. Fozzie had by far superior locks, for instance.
Well, he had a by
Okay.
far superior
Yeah.
team at the get-go. He had a much
100%.
more superior team. He had basically Steve
I mean,
Hansen's team.
100%, which was well coached, number one, and their players were like fucking amazing. So, I mean, you can't tell me if Whitelock and Retallick was like fit to play that they would not be selected above Scott Barrett. Okay.
If we had a fit Retallick and Whitelock, I would be worried about Snyman not being able to play, Lou de Jager not being able to play, Franco Mostert not being, because like they were. Look, you're either a Bucky's and Victor fan or you're a Retallick and Whitelock fan, and like I have the tendency to believe that as much as I love Victor and Bucky's, Retallick and Whitelock at peak were much better. In my opinion, were much better. But that's gone though.
I personally prefer an Eben and Sos. So
no. It's but like it's that realization that like that era is gone. Like look, for me, every time I see Dwayne on the sidelines or in the huddle or with the water, it hurts a little bit because I watched that man play and grow up. But like that's part of life. You get old. Do I think Dwayne Freemulen could still be playing right now? You're damn right I do. And I'm sure he knows he could too. But I mean, I also think if you've ever seen Rassi in the pre-games when he's out on the pitch or during trainings, I think in Rassi's mind, he thinks he could still play too, but he knows that he can't, but like 100%. They're those guys that like, are never going to walk away. Like it's like Victor Matfield, even though he's kind of become like this scarf wearing kind of, he's a pundit. It's like, you kind of look at him and you're like, yeah, what happened to the mean guy? Like, I get it. He got older, he softened up and whatever, but like, he's one of those guys that you knew was never going to walk away. Like Peter Stuff the Toy, you already know what's going to happen. When he's done, you're going to see him on a tractor somewhere. He's not going to be in front of the camera. He's going to be on a tractor out in the field. Same thing with Bucky's Butta. You want to know where Bucky's Butta is? Go find a game reserve. He's hunting. That's what he's doing. He's hunting. Like that's what
he's fucking bare hands, man.
Yeah, like he's put on some weight and he's hunting. That's what Bucky's was never meant to be in front of a camera. Like he was never meant to do 100%.
That. He's out there clapping rhinos, for a living. So
like that's Bucky. That's Peter Stuff the Toy. He's not meant to be in front of a camera. He's going to be on a tractor. He's going to go right back to he's a boarder. He's going to go right back to that. So, and I think, we have to deal with that. And I think All Blacks fans have to kind of begin to accept that, that like Beauden Barrett is not back-to-back World Player of the Year anymore.
Yeah.
He's like.
We went through that whole phase in 2015, man, where like when we first lost against Japan and we had those losses against Italy and, against Wales in the US and, those type of games. And, it was tough times, man. I remember that. It's fucking heartbreaking to go through that. So, because remember, the passion doesn't go away, mate. Like, just because your team's not doing well, you still have the passion and the drive and the like that hunger for a W. You still want all of that. And unfortunately, when these people just don't manage to pull it off, like your heart breaks for them, your heart breaks for yourself. Like you get angry, you lash out, you like. There was many times where it's like, I'm gonna fucking burn my jersey, like because of the way we played, or it like that's the type of stuff that you go through, man. It's like you go through the motions because you're so fucking invested in that, man. Like emotionally, you're so invested in the Springbok team, and that's what these guys like see us talking about, and they're saying they're playing for the people, man. Because there's such a lot of people out there it's got so much passion for this game, and when they're sad, you feel sad. When they're up, you feel up. You like they're a part and parcel of you. You're part of their body. Like of work type of thing. Because their success drives you through your success. Excuse me, I'm getting a bit sick. So so I understand exactly what New Zealand's going through, but
because we've been there.
unfortunately,
We've been
yeah,
there, and it
100%.
sucks. It sucks. But
The only sad thing is that they're very much in denial of where their current situation is, and they're not a bad team. Don't get me wrong; they're still in top 5. I mean, they're like what
yeah,
ranked? They're ranked third in the world,
third
is it?
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, they're still ranked third. So that's not really bad. But I mean, according to their standards, it's very bad, right?
yeah,
And so I just think that people need to understand that Razor is going to make a big difference. Okay, we don't know whether it's going to be good or bad. That's to be seen, right? Because he is not the same as Ian Foster. He is not the same as Steve Hansen. Okay, each one of them got
yeah,
their own style of coaching. They need to develop their own players that work with their plan on that game. They need to get the buy-in from the players and to understand, like, this is what we want to do going forward. Uh, Russie had to do the same when
yeah.
he came up in 2019 and said 6-2 split. Everybody thought he was fucking Mo.
Oh, it was
Okay,
stupid. Yeah, yeah. This isn't
yeah,
gonna. I
100%.
even said it. I thought it was the
Yeah,
most idiotic thing I'd ever seen, and damn it, it
and
worked. Damn it, it
we
worked.
said we got other people in the world to try our
We
style.
set the standard.
That
We set the
100%.
standard. And now we
Okay,
turned
so
around and flipped the script again. We turn around, we're flipping
100%.
it again. And
So that is the question that these guys need to understand in New Zealand is that going to be the same thing? Okay. We don't know. Okay. You can't 2, 3, 4, 5 games in for like the start of somebody's tenure, okay, already make the decision. And this is the problem that I see. And this ties into what you're saying about not thinking Razor's going to be around, is because they do not allow these guys um, to build any sort of continuity. Like
to
they just
fail,
want to
to
100%.
fail, to
The
fail.
moment
Yeah.
that guy starts losing 1-2 games, the public's up against it, and they're like, fire, 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 fire. They're pressing this topic of getting rid, but you're not even allowing the guy to build a winning culture, okay, within that team. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of those guys in that team that's demoralized, man. You can see it when they walk into the field. They're not the same as what, like, even Audie Surveyor. I mean, like, he was
Yeah.
nowhere on that field for me on
Yeah.
Saturday,
Like
right?
he's
Like he made
he's
no difference.
yeah. It's we say this and it's like I 2017. Okay. We know what happened. That's actually where the Fairweather fan came from. My name,
Yeah.
57-0. It was embarrassing, yada, yada, yada. But what I want to talk about is that British and Irish Lions tour that year to New Zealand.
Yeah.
First game, New Zealand absolutely blows them out of the water. Like, it was not
Yeah.
even close. Second game, Sonny Bill red card, All Blacks lose. Okay.
Yeah.
This was Steve Hansen, I think, at that point, his third or fourth loss ever, fifth loss ever.
Yeah.
I remember listening to the radio shows after that. Is Steve Hansen the right man for the job?
Yeah.
One loss. And I think that's the Achilles heel for New Zealand rugby fans, is because they've had that standard so high.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like it when All Blacks compare themselves to Springboks or Rassie Erasmus, because your standard is so much higher than ours. Like, don't compare us. Compare them to yourself. Like, I don't, when it comes
Look,
to the,
I've got a different opinion on that, and I'll add to that just now, but you can finish your train
But
of
I mean,
thought.
like, when I think of Rassie being the best Springboks coach ever, I compared him first to Alistair Coetzee. Yeah, you could compare him to a rubbish bin. Aniki Meyer, Peter de Villiers, Jake White. Who was it before that? Was that Nick Mallett before that? Anyways, I compared him to the predecessors. Is Rassie better than all of them? Yes, 100%. So then I compare him to Steve Hansen, Graham Henry. Is he better than them? Well, by World Cups, yes, but by winning record, no.
Yeah.
Not yet. But we're working on it. We're working on it. But All Blacks fans want to compare Scott Robertson to Rassie Erasmussen. It's like, no, don't compare him to that. Compare him to Fozzie, Hansen, Henry, John Mitchell, you know. So what did you want to add to that? Because I'm curious.
So my 2 cents worth, right? I do not think any of them are comparable. Okay.
Really?
So I'm not referring to Rassie versus other Springbok players. I think any team to another team. All right. So I find that I've watched a lot of videos. Of course, you know, being a bit of an avid rugby supporter and having my own channel as well, I have a lot of passion for the game, and so I always watch a hell of a lot of videos of people doing exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I comment for the better and sometimes for the worse on their channels. But I mean, that being said, my opinion is you can't really compare, okay? Because you get a lot of these people, these pundits, okay, and some pundits are actually they're awesome pundits, okay. But I mean, so long, okay. New Zealand rugby was the team that everybody measured themselves up against. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens is a lot of times, like people are now comparing the two with being opposites. Okay. So they're saying like New Zealand used to have such a great bench and they used to close out games like last 20 minutes. Like they could be losing in the front, but like when at the end they will push it through. And now the roles are reversed and it's now the Springboks doing exactly the same thing, blah, 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 blah. Right. Mm-hmm. And I can see why they draw those conclusions. Okay. But we still have to understand that we're actually completely different in our philosophy, our approach to the game. So, like, there's different reasons that people play this game, okay? And I think our reasons for playing this game and what drives us to be successful is different to what drives New Zealand and their people to be successful, right? I think everybody's got their own individual motivation that drives them to wake up every morning, something, right? And so I see the comparisons, I see it, I understand it, but I think there's a lot of different mechanics that goes into each team and what sets their identity apart from the next, okay, and that that drives them differently. So I don't necessarily jump onto the bandwagon that the roles are reversed. I think there's some issues within the New Zealand camp, and some of them is unfortunately driven by public opinion. Okay, and so I'm going to give you a bit of a story. Right, this actually happened. It's a story that was told to me about a guy that used to work in our industry that I was in at that stage. I used to work in the motor industry, and we had. I was working for Honda at that time, and I was part of a group of companies that owned quite a number of dealerships, and there was one dealership in Rustenburg, which was a multi-franchise dealership. Okay, going through the recession era. Okay. And that recession era was like a killer for a lot of dealerships, right? But this dealership was in Rustenburg, number one, where there was a lot of people being let go at the mines where, the mines are the bigger driver. Right? So, anyways, this dealership was the most successful dealership in the group in that region, okay, which was so volatile with people not having jobs, okay, right through a recession. And so all the like the group directors, I guess, got together, which this guy was one of the guys that drove the sales and that led the teams there in that group of dealerships, right? Anyways, so they all met together in a meeting and they asked him what's his opinion about the recession. And his answer was, he thinks it's a cuck idea and he's not going to be part of it. Okay? And that exactly there tells you about a winning culture, right? Because you're not buying into the hype of everybody else, okay? You are there to make a success out of your business. Okay. External factors, don't tell me about that. I'm going to focus on things that I can control within myself. Okay. And this is the thing that I'm trying to say about the Springboks as well. So I don't think they're focusing, excuse me, too much on people outside and outside influences impacting their game. I think they try and focus on their own game and enforcing that on other people, and that's where New Zealand is, to bring it back to what I was talking about earlier, is struggling with a little bit, because there's so many outside factors that is impacting their game style. Like the moment they lose and these people's mouths start getting big, 1-2 games down, then it's called, let's have calls for the coach to be sacked. Is that player the right player? Like, it just creates this negative mindset within the team, right? And this like sort of non-belief in themselves. And I'm not saying that is the case, but I'm sure like a little bit is getting to those guys, and that just like translates differently out on the pitch, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. You can tell it's like I said, it's the great difference between the two programs, the two fan bases. But that's all we got for this week's episode. We're going to be doing this, guys, right here live on YouTube every Sunday. We'll get a lockdown time. I think it's probably going to be around 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, which would be 7 p.m. your time. No, 6 p.m. your time.
6 p.m. Yeah, 6 p.m.
And until early November, when we lose an hour here, we fall back, since South Africans don't go through that. Speaking of which, it's fall there, or it's spring there, right? Spring is the 1st of September. Yeah. So our fall doesn't start until the 22nd, which is my birthday. But I was driving home last night, and I can kind of already see the sun is in a different place. But so we'll be back here next Sunday. Thank you, guys. This was kind of the pilot episode of this, but this is going to become a Sunday thing. We're going to do this every Sunday. Pierre will be live from Boksburg. I'll be right here in Denton, Texas. And we will talk rugby for an hour every Sunday. So get out there, share this around, let everybody know, hey, Sundays, come on out. I do have one last announcement.
Sure.
96.2 FM in Port Elizabeth, Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. You can get the app. You will hear a familiar voice across the airwaves. Yes, I will be on the radio in Port Elizabeth Tuesday morning, 7:30 a.m. It's not too bad. I got to stay up after midnight. It's going to be 12:30 midnight, but tune in. It's going to be hilarious, I'm sure, just because it's just going to be – it's an Afrikaans station. I found that out. It's an Afrikaans station. Yeah. So I might even try to keep my – but probably not. But, thank you guys for coming out. Yeah. Pierre, thank you once again, as always. My brother – and Ha Tang, who
man.
Look, guys, when I make it back, this is going to be the first oak that I hang out with. When I get back to South Africa, this guy's going to be picking me up. I'm going to request that he not drive like a taxi driver. So that means stay off the pavement.
Those fuckers off the road, man.
Stay off the pavement, please. Stay off the pavement. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, bro. No. Look, I mean,
we're
looking forward to having you there. We're looking forward to having you, man. You know this. We've discussed it before.
Yeah.
And we'll be glad to have you here. We can go and cause some shit.
It's going to be crazy.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for sure.
I had made the plan this year. I got married, but I've had some medical issues. So finances just weren't where they needed to be. Plan is still coming. I'm coming back. When I do, it's going to be a big announcement. And be aware, Gauteng province, that when you get me and this guy in the same space together, it's going to be either really cool, or it's going to be madness, or it's going to be all of that put together.
Fuck, man. I'm so game for it. For sure. Yeah.
All right, man. Cheers, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out.
Thanks, guys. See you guys in the next one.